Welcome back to the Richard and Judy Book Club in association with WHSmith, and our next book is an absolute cracker right up my street. It's a thriller, it's by Robert Goddard, and it's called Fault Line. It's the most extraordinary family saga really, which takes in the China clay mines in Cornwall and sort of spends a long time in the middle in the Capri, beautiful island off Italy, which is lushly described. The contrast between Cornwall and Capri is amazing. But best of all, and Robert Goddard is here now, best of all, it has this terrific hero. He's only 18 and I love him. I fell in love with him. Jonathan. He's a complete doll. He's clever and but he's
I'll
kind
get
of
the coat.
he's kind of morally upright but sort of imaginative and warm as well. And he's the central figure. So how did you come up with him? Did you want to write a story about a young man?
Well, naturally he was modelled on my younger self, and also I suppose my older self, since
yes,
in the course of the book he does.
He ends up being 60 at the end of the book. Yes.
Well, that was one of the appeals of the story, really, so that I could look at him and quite a few of the other characters as well over a period of time, over most of their life, in fact, and the changes that brings to him and to others. And he's a bit of an outsider who gets drawn into a family, coming from a very small family himself. He gets drawn into this family, and little does he anticipate, really, of all the problems that are going to arise from that.
This is the Wren family.
Yes, the Wren family.
Very sinister bunch.
I'm afraid they are a little. Although apparently at the outset they're merely presiding over a genteelly decaying China clay business, but in fact there's far more to it than that. Jonathan's initial interest is essentially romantic, the beautiful daughter of the family, Vivian.
And so out of his league.
Sorry
to say that to you.
Well, there again, you've hit upon the story of my life, but actually she doesn't stay out of his league because of her own rather strange young brother Oliver, who is playing his own game, and he's ahead of a lot of people, and Jonathan gets drawn into it, and over the course of 40 years really takes him to get to the bottom of this.
It's immensely layered, and as I say, I mean the sort of secrets of this strange family, the Wren family, are continually being revealed, and there are various deaths, and some of them you don't even know at first whether they're natural or not. I mean, it just because
it's very cleverly written. It really is.
And I love the scenes in Capri, especially in Great Uncle Francis. Now, Great Uncle Francis is a Wren, but he has a secret, and that secret causes him to do something rather terrible to somebody else. And what I mean is, I'm sorry to describe it like this.
It's good of you not to reveal the details.
Yes, I know, I don't want to reveal the details, but he's a great character, he's absolutely fantastic. And again, poor old Jonathan, who just happens to be there because he's going out with Vivian, the beautiful great niece, finds himself extraordinarily drawn into the centre of events all the time. And even though the events themselves are quite evil and nasty and horrible, poor old Jonathan tries to do his best by everyone, doesn't he?
I think he does, and I think he thinks, as I suppose a lot of us probably think at times, if we just hold this together, we will get through it and come out the other side into a promising, glowing, beautiful future in which Vivian and I are together and the family is happy.
And you're always thinking, oh, Jonathan, that's what I was thinking all the way through.
But there's really not any way through, except in the long term.
No.
How important do you think Cornwall is to the story, that location?
Well, I think certainly in terms of the China Clay District, it's very important. I wanted to use the China Clay District for quite a while in a novel, and of course it's quite an unglamorous counterpoint to the sort of seaside image.
Oh, St Austell, where the China clay industry is I'd hesitate to say it's a dump because we live quite close to it, but I mean it's a challenge. I said I'd hesitate to call it that, but it's a challenging environment actually. It's industrial, isn't it? It's Cornish industry.
But I mean, I enjoyed prowling around and finding the scenes in the past and the present that I could use for the book, and I wanted it to be somewhere that wasn't too glamorous, and that's one of the reasons, of course, because Capri is then a
yes,
nice
of course, lovely counterpoint
to that. And
but what I really meant was, I mean, of course, you have to be in Cornwall for China clay. You'd have to be in that specific site. But I mean, as Judy says, we spend much of our time down there. There is something of a sense of otherness about Cornwall, isn't there? I mean, it's not quite English. It's not quite British. It's,
no, indeed not.
There is a definite sense of separateness, don't you think?
Very much so. No question about that. I mean, England is over the other side of the Tamar. And the China clay area has its own sense of otherness because of the colour of the China clay and the way it creates this slightly lunar landscape in that area, and the colour also of the particularly bright, almost cobalt blue lakes that are that are created.
Almost tropical.
But in fact, of course, are only coloured by industrial waste. So there's this immense irony about it. Sometimes you see something that looks very beautiful, but it's purely created by the results of a mining operation.
It's toxic.
But you make the point, don't you, forgive my ignorance because I don't know much about China clay, if anything, but that actually the industry here, and part of the mystery is that it moves across to America, it becomes incorporated into another company, which still makes the most enormous amount of money out of China clay.
Right. China clay, it's decaying rock, isn't it?
Yes. It's just the particular chance that in certain areas of the world, that kind of geology produces that kind of material. Very useful material, as it's turned out.
But it's actually rotting rock. That's what it boils down to.
Yes, but I suppose
decomposing rock.
Decomposing rock. Well, I suppose all mining operations are decomposing.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so.
Just that, and it's sort of interesting, isn't it? You know, that the coal mining areas are sort of black, and then we have China clay white. Yeah. So it's totally different, and many of the villages are sort of coated in white dust. Which is
well, it is richly atmospheric. I'm not saying I fell in love with the central character, Judy, but I certainly became very fond of him.
It was a maternal affection when he was 18.
Absolutely. It's an absolute cracking book, and if you like a lot of deaths in your mysteries, you'll get them here. Robert Goddard and Fault Line. In the back of the book, of course, are all the usual extra bits that you get if you buy them from WHSmith. There's our question and answer sessions with all the authors. There's details on how to download the podcast, stuff like this, and separate material that we record. And of course, you can now get the Book Club app as of this year. You simply download the app to your smartphone, you go into WHSmith, you point it at the book of your choice, the one you're thinking of buying in our collection, and up Judy and I pop on the little screen of your phone talking to you and giving you a verbal review of what delights await you inside the book. They're all great reads, and this is right up there with the best of them. Congratulations, Robert. It's a lovely read.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.